Welcome to Sports Spectrum, the sports and faith podcast that brings Jesus back into the conversation. Here's your host, Jason Romano.
This episode of the Sports Spectrum podcast with Andrew Putnam, PGA Tour Pro, is brought to you by Compassion International. The website's compassion.com/sports spectrum. That's where you can go, and making room at your dinner table for one more for just $38 a month. You can sponsor a child and release them from poverty. This poverty is preventing children from even the basic needs for life: food, education, medical care, vocational training. This is where your sponsorship comes in. For just $38 a month, you can release a child from poverty. Sponsor a child today over at Compassion International. The website, compassion.com/sports spectrum. Compassion.com/sports spectrum. The best $38 you'll spend every single month. Release a child from poverty today. Today's guest on the podcast is Andrew Putnam. Andrew is a professional golfer on the PGA Tour, played his college golf at Pepperdine University, where he was a three-time All-American, made his professional debut in 2011, and he played on the eGolf Professional Tour in 2012. Putnam won for the first time as a professional in April 2014 on the Web.com Tour and made his PGA Tour debut at the Shell Houston Open in 2014. In 2018, in August of 18, he gained his first PGA Tour win at the Barracuda Championship near Reno, Nevada, and finished the 2017-18 PGA Tour season with 5 top 10s and earned over $2 million in cash prize money. He finished 35th in the season-long FedEx Cup last year and began this season in 2019 in January at the SONY Open in Hawaii, finishing second overall to Matt Kuchar. And I really like talking to Andrew on this episode of the podcast. We explore the age of 30. He hit that 30-year-old mark in January, so we start there. And then talked about his faith journey, coming to faith in high school, and his welcome to the PGA Tour moment, which includes a story about maybe the greatest golfer of all time, one Mr. Tiger Woods. Really fun talking to Andrew here on the podcast. Let's get to it. Andrew Putnam, PGA Tour Pro, joins us here on the Sports Spectrum podcast. Take a listen. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to talk to you, Andrew. And I want to start with a monumental birthday, I guess we'll say. You just turned 30 years old, January 25th. And I remember when I turned 30, I had a big issue with hearing people call me a 30-year-old. I'm now 45, so I'm way over that, past that. But I wonder if you had any qualms with hitting the big 3-0 and just kind of hearing that you're a 30-year-old.
Well, my only qualm about it, my wife is, she's already in her 30s, so I've been, giving her grief for being a decade older than me. And so now I can't say that to her anymore. I just joined her.
How much older is she than you?
She's about 3 years older than I am.
3, okay. So that's not too bad.
Yeah, not too much.
That's awesome. So how did you celebrate the birthday? Did you have any kind of special party or any surprise party thrown or anything like that?
So it was cool. It was one of my off weeks. It was during one of my off weeks, and so my wife, she surprised me with a massage chair for my birthday, which was awesome.
Nice.
And then she kind of played it down like, she's 36 weeks pregnant, so she's kind of on the last tail end of her, pregnancy. So she was playing it like we're going to have a mellow night. And she ended up surprising me with all my friends at a restaurant, taking me in there, and completely caught me off guard because I thought we were just going to have a nice, quiet evening together. And I walked in and there was about 15 to 20 of my friends waiting for us.
Wow.
So she killed it. She's typically not very sneaky, and she's ruined a few different surprises before. So I was really impressed. She did a great job.
And she's 36 weeks pregnant. I mean, she's carrying a child, and all of a sudden she's putting this on at the same time. That's impressive. Is this your first child, or how many kids do you have already?
Yeah, this is going to be my first. We're going to be having a little baby girl, and she's due February 28th.
Nice.
So I'm this is my first week out on the road without her. She's going to be at home until this baby comes.
How exciting is that? Have you been getting advice and talking to people about what it's like to become a dad and sleepless nights and feedings and everything else?
Yeah, we've been hearing it all from everyone. I guess we're pretty proactive in trying to prepare, but I'm learning that you can't really prepare for this moment in life. It's it's going to be pretty life-changing. I'm excited though.
It's the truth. I mean, you cannot prepare. And I remember so many people would offer advice, do this, do that. And then when you have your own, it's yours and it's your own experience, but it's truly rewarding and enriching for sure. We're talking to Andrew Putnam here on the Sports Spectrum podcast. Andrew, let's learn about your journey to pro golf, where it started, what life was like as a kid growing up. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I grew up in University Place, Washington, close to a golf course called Chambers Bay, where they had the U.S. Open a couple years back. And my dad was just kind of a recreational golfer. He joined a club when he was in his early 30s, and they had a really good junior golf program. So my brothers and I, we did that, you know, as something fun to do. A lot of our friends played golf, and I got two brothers, one that's 7 years older and one that's 5 years older than I am. So they love golf, and I kind of followed in their footsteps and played out of Faircrest Country Club, and started, I think, when I was 8 years old, and kind of just progressed from there. We played, you know, realized I was pretty good and played in the Washington Junior Golf Association, and then ended up winning state when I was 16 years old, realizing I had a pretty good future, and started playing some more national tournaments and kind of progressed from that.
What was the moment where maybe you realized you were pretty good? Was it in a tournament? Was it somebody recognizing you? Was it winning the state when you were 16? What was that moment when you said, you know what, this is more than just something I like. This is something that I'm pretty good at? Yeah,
I'd say, my brother actually played golf, and he played at a pretty high level. He got recruited to Pepperdine and was an All-American college golfer. And so I always had a pretty good barometer to judge my skills against. And I realized probably when I was 12 or 13 that I was pretty good at it, and I wanted to take it more seriously. And I started getting formal lessons. And my freshman year in high school, I won the state tournament. I had a hole-in-one on my back nine to win by 1. And I think after that moment, I really realized that, hey, you know, pretty good at this thing. And I wanted to, I had a pretty good work ethic, and I really worked hard at it as a junior and wanted to see how good I can get.
A hole-in-one, that's pretty awesome. I mean, and obviously a lot of golfers get that, but getting a hole-in-one, describe that feeling, wherever that is, whether it's as a kid or even as a PGA Tour pro like you are now, and just what that's like, because that's the perfect shot, they say, right, in golf. So tell me about that experience and that feeling when you get a hole-in-one, because you're probably not expecting it, I would think, right? You're just trying to hit a good shot.
Yeah, you're never expecting a hole-in-one, and if someone says they are expecting one, you probably shouldn't believe them. But,
right.
Yeah, it was crazy because I knew I was a few back of the lead, and I started off the back nine birdie, and then hole-in-one came, and then another birdie. And so I had some family members there, and they were hooting and hollering, and it was crazy how fast that kind of changed the tournament for me. But I've had 10 hole-in-ones total. So it's each one is special, and each one is, you know, it's pretty fun. Because it is a great deal of luck. You know, some of my hole-in-ones I've hit, you know, really great shots. Some of them, they've been mediocre, and they've gone in. So you never know how it's going to happen.
Andrew, this is a faith in sports podcast. I know your faith is important to you. So let's learn about your faith journey and, you know, coming to Christ and when that kind of became a thing for you and a real transformation in your life.
Yeah, so I grew up with an amazing family who was really involved in our local church, and I can remember, going forward for an altar call when I was 5 or 6 years old with my dad. And I'd say that's probably when I accepted Christ, but, it didn't become real to me until I was kind of in my early years of high school, when I really had to start making some decisions on my own. And that's where I really felt like there was a kind of a fork in the path of, do I choose to, follow Christ, or do I want to go down another path? And I just felt like God was always pursuing me and bringing great people around me to encourage me in my faith. And I think in high school is really where I solidified my relationship with Christ and really went all in. And, it's been a ongoing journey of growth, I think, since then. And, but I was definitely, thankful to have such great parents and grandparents and a legacy of people who, put their faith in Christ and really showed that to me from an early age.
And yet, even the most grounded people that I've met, especially athletes that we've talked to here on the podcast that are grounded in the Lord, when success comes the way, it's difficult to stay in tune with your faith, I guess, sometimes, or not to let it get to your head. I know you were a 3-time All-American at Pepperdine when you went to college. Was that a difficult road to navigate and kind of balance between being a believer and suddenly having all this success come your way?
I don't think it was, because the thing about golf is it's such a roller coaster sport. There's never a straight line of success. It's very relatable to how life is, and there's a lot of ups and downs, and though some might look at my career and say, hey, looks like you kind of had a straight line to, 3-time All-American. Took you a year to get on the PGA or the Web.com tour, a couple of years of the PGA. I know a lot of people struggle a lot more than you do, but there was a lot of low moments, a lot of times where I completely lost my golf game and on the brink of tears, working your whole life to get to being where you're at, and you feel like you might want to quit. And I've had that, multiple times in golf. It definitely will humble you and will make you really dig deep to find your identity and worth in something other than the sport you play. And so, I feel like in terms of looking over the last, 10 years, 15 years, I've been really competitive. It's the moments that I've failed that I actually learn the most. I feel like our failures are where we really discover who we are. And even though they're hard to walk through it, if you have the right perspective, it's a really sweet time of life.
Andrew Putnam's our guest here on the Sports Spectrum podcast. Andrew, what was, as you got past college and started to enter into professional golf and become a pro in 2011, what for you was that sort of welcome to the PGA moment when you either hit a shot or you were playing on a course or you met someone and you were just like, oh, okay, I'm here now. This is the PGA Tour, or this is professional golf. What was that moment like for you? What was one of those welcome moments for you?
I'd have to say my first PGA event was the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach in 2010. I actually qualified as an amateur.
That's a pretty good first tournament.
But yeah, so that was my first time ever playing in front of crowds, and it was an eye-opening experience just because I had never been inside the ropes on a PGA Tour event, and there's multiple moments that week that were just kind of like a welcome to the PGA type thing. I was on the range warming up my first day, and there was a spot open behind me, and someone taps me on my shoulder, and I look back, and Tom Watson's sitting there asking if he can hit balls behind me. And if anyone knows golf, Tom Watson has so much history at Pebble Beach, winning amazing championships, and for him to be there, asking, just a college golfer if hit, in the stall behind him is pretty amazing. And actually my first ever tee shot there in my practice round, we waited on the tee for a few minutes because the group in front of us was a little bit slow, and coming down the other 9 was a guy named Tiger Woods, who was playing a practice round and making the turn, and we were on number 10, and we had a few minute wait, and Tiger ended up rolling up onto the tee, and I thought I was going to have a nice relaxing pro-am or relaxing practice round, and he rolls up with his 30 cameras and hundreds and hundreds of gallery members to watch me hit my first ever tee shot in that practice round. And I can remember being so nervous I could hardly tee up my golf ball. My hands were shaking, and I was hoping he wasn't watching me. And it hit the ball straight right into the ocean on number 10, Pebble Beach. And I was trying to run off that tee box because I was so nervous. And the guy I was playing with, Jerry Kelly, yelled at me and told me I needed to hit another one. And I got up there and I was just praying to God that I could hit it somewhere on the planet, and luckily hit that one straight. But that was kind of my welcome to the PGA Tour life.
That's a pretty good story, a pretty good moment. I mean, when Tiger's sitting there watching you. Tell me about playing. You mentioned playing in front of crowds, and obviously Tiger playing in front of the biggest crowds. But tell me about playing in front of a crowd and why that was such a big adjustment for you. Obviously, golf is golf, but it really isn't. And I played basketball and baseball when I was a kid, and you play in front of 20 people or whatever. But then when you get into an arena, it's much different. Same thing for golf in that sense?
Yeah, I think so. And that's the biggest difference between, I would say, guys who play on the web.com tour and the PGA is just how much more of a production the PGA Tour is. And, they have thousands of people out watching you and cameras everywhere and stuff going on all over the place. And essentially, the game of golf doesn't change from being a college golfer to professional. It's what's happening outside the ropes that's changing. And so that's been the biggest thing that I've had to learn, is how to deal with everything else off the course. The game is the same. You're still trying to hit it in the same size hole, and you're playing, golf courses with grass and hazards and all the same stuff that you are normally used to. It's just, when you're on that kind of a stage with all those eyes looking at you, it's just, that's kind of what separates people who can handle their nerves and people who aren't able to do that.
What was it like winning that first PGA Tour victory, getting that first PGA Tour victory in that match and that opportunity for you to win that? What was that like?
It was incredible. It was just an amazing day where I felt complete peace and calm, and I felt like a lot of the tournaments I played prior to that really prepared me to be able to handle, the pressure and the situation that I was in, and I felt, I just felt comfortable and really felt like I had earned to be there in that position to have a chance at winning and to come down all the way to the final hole and to make a birdie on my last and win it. It was just like a dream come true. And, it's been an incredible journey ever since then. Winning on the tour does so much for your career, and it really catapults you forward. It's something that, everyone's trying to do every week, and it's really a huge part of your career. If you can get a win, it really helps a lot of things.
It's a hard thing to get a win. I talked to a lot of golfers here on the podcast, and some haven't got their PGA Tour win yet, and others have a couple. And, the layman fan, the person who may not even understand golf's like, oh, wow, big deal, one tournament win. But it's hard to win a tournament, isn't it?
It is, yeah. There's so many good players on tour. And there's so many guys who've done it before, who know how to get the job done. I think just getting that first one off your back is the hardest part. You're always trying to visualize and believe that you can do it. And I think that's, part of our preparation is to always, visualize that yourself in that situation and seeing yourself do it. But until you actually have those memories, you're just trying to create something from nothing, But now that I have those memories of actually, winning the tournament and going through all the motions that you have to do that. It's huge for me.
Andrew, what's the toughest part about being a Christian who happens to be a professional golfer? I always say that because I believe we're all Christians who happen to be this or happen to be that, and not a golfer who happens to be Christian. For you, what's the biggest, I guess the toughest part about being a Christian who is a professional golfer?
A good question. I'd say the hardest part about, my faith is just the lifestyle of being on the road and traveling so much and not having, consistency with relationships and having a consistent community to be interacting with. I think that's one of the, the hardest things of this life. Everyone sees how glamorous it is, but, in the same way, it can be tough, traveling away from your wife or your kids or your church group or your community that you're involved with. And I think that's the hardest part for me, is just learning how to, make a community on the road. There's a lot of great Christian guys out here who are in the same spot and want to connect and want to keep growing. But it's a hard balance.
How do you stay that grounded on the road then? Are you part of the Bible study? I think there's a PGA Tour Bible study, or I think web.com, and some of the golfers have offered that too with Golf Fellowship. How are you able to stay grounded during a long season where you are traveling so much?
Yeah. So I go to the Bible study most every week here out on tour. And that's if we didn't have that, it'd be really tough, but they make it so much easier to connect with guys and to, hear a gospel message every week. I also have, good friends and mentors who I'm constantly talking to on the phone who are, I've just been, doing life with for a while, and it's committed to, staying in contact and keeping each other in the loop. And so those couple things together, I feel like, really help make it not so difficult on the road.
How does the Great Commission apply to your life as a golfer? We're called to go out and make disciples and all that into the world. And you're in that world as a golfer every week in a tournament, playing somewhere. But how does that apply to your life as a golfer? Can it apply to your life as a golfer when you're in the midst of being on the road like that?
Oh, of course. I think no matter what our job is, I think, everyone has the opportunity of impacting the people around them, people that they're working with, the people who are their employees, the people who, their coaches, everyone who they come in contact with is a person that they can have influence on. And so I feel like, traveling around on tour, we have a pretty steady group of the same people that you see every single week. So, developing relationships with guys, people who maybe are believers or aren't believers, taking interest in them, going out to dinners. That's something that, tried to do. Me and my wife tried to make friendships with people who believe, or believers who aren't believers, and just try to, walk alongside them. And no matter where we're at, whether we're on the road or at home, we're always trying to, connect with other people.
A couple more questions here with Andrew Putnam on the podcast. I know that you and your brother, I think this is the same brother, Michael, who you were talking about earlier, are part owners in a golf towel company called PlayKleen. And I love why that was created. Can you tell us why that was created and how people can learn more about it and what it's, what the benefits of it, I guess?
Yeah. So we were presented with the opportunity probably 5 years ago. One of our friends wanted to invite us to be part of his company. It's a golf towel company. And it is, it's something that we've really enjoyed being a part of the last few years. We make golf towels for different golf courses, different tournaments, different outings, different, fundraisers for a number of PGA Tour pros. And it's fun for us because we both got business degrees from Pepperdine, and it's fun to be involved in kind of the business aspect of golf, whether, not just be a small golf towel company, but it's still fun to be involved in that kind of side of the golf world. And we've been able to do some pretty cool things with different fundraisers, making towels for, when the hurricane hit Houston, making towels and donating to them. Just, being able to do towels for different foundations and it's been a lot of fun working with, some of the courses that we have dreamt of playing, Bandon Dunes, courses kind of all over the country. And it's been fun to be involved with it.
What's the website? Is there a website, Andrew, that people can learn more about PlayKleen?
Yes. PlayKleen.com is the website. And, we do individual custom towels, but we mainly specialize in, bigger tournaments and outings and charity events. That's kind of where we like to get involved.
And that's PlayKleen. It's KLEEN, not CLEAN. So PlayKleen, KLEEN.com, the website. Go check it out and learn more about the golf towel company that Andrew's a part of. Andrew, as we close here, let's ask this question. We always ask it to all of our guests as we close our podcast. In this season of life where God has you, you're about to become a dad for the first time. You're on the tour, married, obviously, lots going on, now 30 years old. What are you learning from God right now in this season of life? What has he been teaching you?
Something that I've really been learning the last, I'd say year or year and a half is learning how to rest well. And that's kind of funny talking about that coming up, my life. I'm probably not going to be resting a lot in the traditional sense. I'm probably not going to get a lot of sleep the next few months with the new one on the way. But what I mean by that is learning how to hit the pause button. Sometimes, I feel like the culture in the world is just constantly after your attention, and with how social media is these days. And I just feel like our world is so busy, and it's easy to get sucked into all that. And I think it takes great discipline to be able to stop and reflect and to kind of take an inward look of what's going on in your life. And I know that when Jesus calls us to repent and believe, repentance sometimes, I think it comes from the word metanoia, which can mean to think about your thinking. And so that's one thing that me and one of my mentors have been talking about a lot, is to take time to think about how you're thinking. And that's something that is really hard in this fast-paced world, to really be intentional about really trying to align your thoughts with God's thoughts, and to allow him to come in and change your mind so that we're able to follow him in a deeper way and to experience the abundant life, in John 10:10 that he talks about. That's really found in being in relationship with Christ and allowing him to shape how we're thinking, and to allow the Holy Spirit to really lead us in the ways that God wants us. So just learning how to rest and learning how to reflect and not be caught up in such a, busy state of mind, I think is something that I've been learning a lot to do.
He is Andrew Putnam, PGA Tour pro, just turned 30 years old. A belated happy birthday to you, Andrew. And listen, we wish you nothing but the best. Excited for your new baby girl to be born, and look forward to catching up, watching you this year on the tour, seeing how things go, and hopefully getting you back here next year and talking some more golf with you. Thanks again.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jason. All the best.
And many thanks to Andrew Putnam, the PGA Tour pro, for joining us here on the Sports Spectrum podcast, and congratulations to him and his wife on the birth of their baby girl. Very exciting news there, and we'll wish Andrew nothing but the best for the rest of 2019 on the PGA Tour. And of course, you can follow along with Andrew on Instagram. He's at Andrew Putnam, just his name, at Andrew Putnam. And you can check out all that has to do with his golf towel company, PlayKleen, by going to PlayKleen.com, PlayKleen.com. Many thanks to Andrew Putnam for joining us here on the podcast, and thank you to Compassion International for sponsoring this podcast. They have been great partners here with us at Sports Spectrum, and they provide you a chance to partner with us and with Compassion for just $38 a month. Now, here's where your money goes. It goes to food, education, medical care, and vocational training in releasing a child from poverty. Now, we're talking about 2 million children are breaking the cycle of poverty for good through the great work being done at Compassion International. And childhood should be full of exploration, learning, and growth, and full of hope, and done through the lens of Jesus Christ. And Compassion does that. It's wonderful, the work that they're doing, and you can be a part of it too. Go to compassion.com/sportsspectrum and sponsor a child today. Thanks for listening to this episode of the podcast. You can reach us via email. You can email me directly, jason@sportsspectrum.com, or you can reach us on social media @sports_spectrum. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can take a screenshot of this podcast and tag us. Let us know that you heard this podcast. We'd love to share it and retweet it and like it and all that good stuff over on social media. So make sure you let us know where you heard the Sports Spectrum podcast on your social media pages. You can also reach us on our website. That's where all of our content can be found at sportsspectrum.com. Check it out, sportsspectrum.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time right here on Sports Spectrum's podcast. Have a great rest of your day.